Hey guys, welcome back to Delaware Acre. We are going to preserve some of these crooked neck and rampicante pumpkins, these winter squash. I just have them on the floor in my office, and they actually would probably store okay there. They're just taking up a lot of room. They're in the walkway, and the kids keep tripping over them when we're trying to get to the windows behind there to open the curtains in the morning. So I just picked one, and we'll start chopping this up to use my new Presto canner. You can see it in the background there. I've had it for a little while. I've used it for a little while. I decided not to do a tutorial on it because I am not an expert, and I kind of I'm still figuring it out. So there's plenty of tutorials out there about how to use it. But this Rampicante squash is the whole neck is all meat there, and it probably would have stored okay because the stem here is nice and firm and there was plenty of it left there, and the rind here, I'm pressing on it, is not giving. It's nice and firm. Probably would, like I said, probably would have stored very well, but I just don't. You can see how many I have, and I just have too many. I've actually given several away. I've already preserved a few, but I figured I would just show you what I've been doing quickly. I've probably been doing this at least once, or no, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 times per week. In the evenings, I was coming home and chopping these up and preserving some, and I thought maybe I should make a video about it, but just to show you what I'm doing with all these pumpkins. But this morning, on the day I recorded this, everyone was still in bed. It was in the morning on the weekend, so I was trying to get some started before everyone got up, and you can slowly see people appearing in the background there. But I chopped up the neck part, and I just use a regular potato peeler and peel off the rind. It's pretty easy. It goes pretty quick, and I usually just have a compost bag, like a paper bag, so like, as I'm chopping this thing up and processing it, I just throw everything into the bag, and the whole paper bag goes into my compost. I just throw the whole thing in there, so it's pretty useful. The kids, I can actually task one of the kids to just go dump it in the compost. So I'm cutting the squash into about an inch shaped cubish type object, and I actually finally realized that to work smarter and not harder, and to chop these up directly into the pot that I have to boil it for 2 minutes in. I don't know why I was putting it into a bowl and then putting it into the pot. I don't know what I was thinking before, but just chopping this up here and putting it directly into the bowl that I plan to put on the stove. You have to boil these this cubed squash for 2 minutes and then drain the liquid, then you can can them. So yeah, here is the, I guess it's the pumpkin part, or the seeded part of, this is the Rampicante squash, and it looks like I'm struggling here, but it actually cuts pretty easily, much easier than dealing with a pumpkin, like a big round pumpkin that could be rolling all over the place. But and I've done this a couple different ways. I have peeled the bulb part first and then cut it, and then I have cut it and peeled it. So either way, it still gets slippery. But there's the insides. I scoop out most of the seeds here, and I just use a spoon. I know that there's certain tools that you can use for this. Just scooping everything out here, and normally I would save these seeds and take them over to my cousin's chickens down the road, but this day we had stuff to do, and I was trying to get it done. I knew I wouldn't get over there that day, so there's no point in keeping the seeds separate. And then I found this little trick. If you kind of scoop them out, the seeds out like this, all the goop kind of comes off of it, and they're a little slippery, but I only needed a few seeds. I have a ton of seeds for squash and winter squash, so I'm not saving too many. And yeah, totally missed the bowl there some too, but just save a few seeds of the biggest and most ripe squash. You just kind of have to get into a groove when it comes down to peeling this part, because they're slippery at this point. And you can see everyone slowly trickling into the kitchen, including Charlie the cat. Then I actually went and grabbed a second one and just repeated the process. And just filling these pots with water. I'm just using tap water, and then evening them out once I get them on the stove. And once they come to a boil, you have to boil them for 2 minutes. And it's not to cook the squash pieces, it's just to, I think it's to kill the enzyme that keeps them ripening, so while you can them. And then I read somewhere, I'm pretty sure that you're not supposed to use the same liquid that you use to boil them with to can them with. So you do have to put liquid in the jars. You don't want to use that same liquid because it just puts the enzyme in the jar anyway. The compost bag, I am just going to take this whole entire bag out and plop the whole thing in the compost. Time to clean up. And yes, I did have some dirty dishes in my sink while I was washing that squash, and that's because I knew once I got done chopping up the squash, I would clean off my counter and have it nice and clean so that I can put my wet dishes on there, my wet dry dishes on there to dry off while I am waiting for that to come to a boil. And just like with the traditional pressure canner, the stovetop pressure canner, the gasket just needs to be cleaned, and you should be inspecting it before you use it each time. And I'm putting a little bit of avocado oil in it just to, I think it helps to maintain a seal once it, once it's on and locked. Just make sure the bottom of this insert isn't wet. I don't know if moisture should get down there or not, so I try to make sure it's really clean. And then it's really nice to have it this close to the sink because then I can fill it up with the spigot hose. But there's a line in there that lets you know how high to fill it, to 3 quarts. And then I plug it in, and it is automatically on pressure can. And then once you hit the button, you're supposed to put how much time you want a pressure can for. So I just wanted to confirm that 4 quarts is 90 minutes. So then you just turn the knob just like a radio dial up to 90 minutes, and then press it one more time. And this is where it says to fill your jars. Now, initially what you're supposed to do is put your jars, put some water in your jars and put them in the Presto canner, and then put the lid on and let the jars get warmed up. Then once it beeps and it says they're warm, you're supposed to take the jars out, dump the water, make sure you still maintain 3 quarts of water in the canner itself, then fill your jars, then put them back in. So instead of doing that, my jars will already be warm from the squash itself. So I just go ahead and let it warm up, and then I put the jars in there, and then I hit warm jars, and then I just go from there. I just kind of skip that step and just let it all warm up at the same time. But these will already be warm, so yeah. I'm not sure why I decided to scoop out the squashes like this. This is definitely the hard way to do it, but yeah. So just filling up these jars. And again, you don't want to cook this squash. You're not trying to cook it. You're just trying to kill that enzyme. So I'm draining the water out and then just filling my jars. And I'm filling the jars to a 1-inch headspace. I am kind of mushing the squash down a little bit just to fit more in each jar, so that there's a little bit less water. And then once the squash is in there, I put some water from my tea kettle or my water kettle, boiling water in there, and then I kind of stir them around with my little spatula here to make sure that I get the bubbles out. And again, 1-inch headspace even after the water's in. Okay, and of course you want to wipe those rims off. Little pieces of pumpkin fiber end up on the rim sometimes, and yeah, usually I use vinegar. I think this day I just used water. I actually did start soaking my lids in some hot water, almost boiling water, and I've noticed that I've gotten better seal rates, and they're ball lids. But yeah, don't get me started on lids. So I am putting my jars into the canner here. I took the lid off and I'm putting them in. I can do up to 5 quarts. And I'm looking in there and I'm like, something just doesn't look right here. These are like, they sound different and they're not sitting in there very well. So I realized that I didn't put the rack in the bottom. Thank goodness I noticed that I was missing that piece, and before I turned the canner on, that could have been very, very bad news. So yeah, 5 quarts going in, and I did read the manual, and it does say that you can put you don't have to put all 5 quarts in there. You could just put 1 jar in there and it would be safe to can using the canner. So the stovetop one, I think you have to have at least 3 quarts in there in order for the space to pressure ratio to be correct. So it is safe, but again, I'm doing 5 quarts here. And yeah, you couldn't see there, but I did press the button for start, and then it just starts, it does its own thing, and it will heat up and vent, and then it'll beep again when it's time to put the regulator on, and then you put the regulator on, press the button one more time, and then it just takes care of everything. So much better than babysitting the stovetop canner. Yeah. So I have a little bit of this pumpkin left over, and I was out of clean mason jars, so I just went ahead and put it into, just our leftover container, and that'll go into the fridge. About 2 hours later, you can see that this little guy pops up there, and that keeps it locked shut. That's your vent. And then the regulator is on to can. And then once it's cool enough and that little vent safety thing pops down or goes down, you can open this up. And I was trying to be brave, but they're still warm, even though it says it's really cool. And I usually let them stay in there for a good hour or 2 after it says it's safe to open them. So, and you still want to put them, you don't want to put them directly onto your countertop because your countertop can be kind of cold and temperature change could cause breakage in your jars. So, but yeah, aren't they so cool looking? They're so much prettier when they go in, and the water turns color. My son thinks that the smell is just absolutely disgusting after you can. So, but yeah, just wanted to show you what I've been doing to help preserve these pumpkins, and what I'll be doing with it. I plan on trying to make soup this year. So anyway, thanks for watching, and until the next video, hope you're well. Take care. Bye.